Chullin Daf Kuf Lamed Ches, if a person is making a leather pouch and he hasn't finished it, there's no Gmar Kli yet, and it could still hold pomegranates. It's not considered a Kli until he finishes it completely, stitches up the last stitch. If it's a Kli already, and it developed a hole in it, so if, according to the Tanakama, pomegranates can fall out of it, it's no longer a Kli. However, according to Rabbi Elazar ben Yaakov, since these pouches were made to hold thread, balls of yarn and thread, so the shear has to do with thread and not peiros. So he says it has to have a hole the size of a ball of thread, which is eser slime, 10 slime, which is a quarter of a mana. What kind of mana? A mana of 40 slime. It says in the Mishnah you have to give 5 slime worth of shearings of wool to the kohen, which are white. And as we mentioned, the Mishnah doesn't necessarily mean that you have to make the shearings white. You just have to give him enough that once he removes all the impurities, that he'll remain with 5 slime. What's 5 slime? We said it's a beged katan, it's a small garment. Where did the Gemara get this small garment from? Says the Gemara, because it says right after this parsha of Reish Lagez, it says lamod the shares. In order to make a small garment for a kohen, what's the smallest garment? The avneit, the belt. Why don't we just go for a larger garment? Because we have the concept of tafasta meruba, loy tafasta. If you want to be sure that what you're saying is going to hold, go for something small. Nobody's going to be able to argue with you. Now, there is a smaller beged, the kippah, which the Kohen Gadol wore underneath it sits. However, since it's not a garment that all Kohanim wear, so that's not the garment we're talking about. We're talking about a garment that all Kohanim wear, even the Kohen Hedyot. Now, according to the Manda Omar that says that the Kohen Hedyot, avneit, his belt, was made out of cotton, still, since he wears this belt, and the Kohen Gadol wears the belt with tzemer, with wool, so therefore, we're talking about this avneit and not the kippah. Now, what happens, says the Gemara, very interesting question. You're supposed to have 5 sheep in order to be chayiv in Reish Lagez. What happens if he shears sheep number 1 and immediately sells it off? Shears sheep number 2, sells it off. By the time he's done with all the shearings, he doesn't have any sheep left. Says the Gemara Machlokes. Rav Chisda says, it says, at the time of the shearing, you have to have 5. And over here, he had 5 sheep at the time that he started shearing, therefore it's okay. Reb Nosson Bar Oishia says that he's potter. Why? Because at the time that you're chayiv to give the shearings, that's when you have to have 5, and he didn't have 5. The Gemara brings a raya from our Mishnah. The Mishnah says that if you buy just the shearings off a guy, but the guy owns the actual sheep, you are potter from Reish Lagez. It would seem like, what if you bought the sheep off the guy just to do the mitzvah, to shear it, and then give it back to the guy? It would seem like you'd be chayiv, like Rav Chisda. In other words, you bought sheep, and as you shear the sheep, each one goes back to the guy one by one, to the point where when you got to number 5, you didn't own them anymore. It would seem like from our Mishnah that you're chayiv. Says the Gemara, that's not a great raya it's not a raya against Reb Nosson Bar Oishia, because he could say that's talking about that you did a deal with the guy, that it should be yours all the way to the end, while when you had the chiyuv to give Reish Lagez. It says in the Mishnah that if a person sold all his shearings, then the buyer is the one that's chayiv in Reish Lagez. But if he left himself a little bit, then the seller would be chayiv to do Reish Lagez. So the Gemara wanted to say that Rav Chisda says that maybe it goes according to Rabbi Yehuda. Rabbi Yehuda holds that if a person has a field of wheat, and in the field he has a few trees, and he sold off all his trees, then the person that bought the trees, he's chayiv and payah from those trees. However, if he left himself one tree, then the person that sold all the trees, he's chayiv from his one tree on all the trees of payah. So too by Reish Lagez, you could say the same thing. Since he left himself a little bit of the shearings, he has the obligation of Reish Lagez. Says Rava, no, trees are different. Trees, once you start harvesting the tree, you have a chiyuv of payah. But in Reish Lagez, once you start shearing, you're not chayiv in Reish Lagez until you come to the full shear. Therefore, Rava says different shot. He says that the person that has a chiyuv to give Reish Lagez can never sell off his chiyuv. And when he sells off all his shearings, what he's doing is he's just putting in the pile and saying to the buyer, hey, in this pile of shearings, I'm not selling you what I'm chayiv to give the kohen. All I'm doing is I'm giving it to you so that you become my shliach to give to the kohen. I never charge you for that. So if he leaves himself shearings, so he's saying, I'll take care of it myself, I'll do it myself. And if he doesn't leave himself shearings, he says, I never charge you for it, you do it. So too, the Gemara wants to say, like we had many times, that if somebody sells the b'nei me'ayim of an animal, if he sells all the intestines, then the buyer has to give the keva to the kohen. Says the Gemara over there, the pshat is that he never bought the keva. He never paid for it. That wasn't included in the sale. The seller put it in the pile and he said, you take care of it. However, if the guy bought it by weight, then that means he did buy it, and therefore he could get a refund from the seller. And with that, we finish the Perek Rishis. Again, we're starting Perek Shluach HaKan. Shluach HaKan, the famous mitzvah that's similar to Kibbud Aveim, that the Torah promises Arichas Yomim if you do it. You're going, you're walking in the way, and you find, and you happen upon a nest, and there's a mother sitting on her eggs or on her chicks. You shoo the mother away, and you take the eggs and the chicks for yourself. Says the Mishnah, like we said 5 times before, that this mitzvah is noyeg even in Chutz La'aretz, even in America, even in time there's no Beis HaMikdash, and only in Chullin and not in Kachin. And the Mishnah says this mitzvah, the mitzvah of Kisei Adam, is more chomer than Shiluch HaKan, because Kisei Adam applies also to a chaya, not only to a oif, and even if it doesn't just happen upon you, even if it's prepared. So what does prepared mean? Says the Mishnah, let's say you have a chicken in your backyard, that's not prepared. But if the chicken runs away and makes a nest outside in some orchard where it can run away from you, then it's considered unprepared, and you could do mitzvah Shiluch HaKan. Same thing applies to Yonei Harduyos, Hardusais. These are pigeons that are common dwellers with humans. They like to lay their nest next to human beings, and therefore they're not considered unprepared. These are prepared, and therefore you're not making the mitzvah of Shiluach HaKan. The Torah says that you should shoo away the mother. It doesn't talk about the father. Yet the Mishnah brings a machlokes. There's a bird called a koirei. In English, it's a partridge. That it's even the male likes to sit on eggs that are not its own. So therefore, the Tanna Kama holds that Rebbe Eliezer holds that you're chayiv to shoo it away. There's a mitzvah Shiluach HaKan, and Chachamim hold you're potter from Shiluach HaKan since it's a male. Now there's a total of 6 Mishnayos, including this one, starting with Kisei Adam, Oisef es Benoi. We had Gid Anosha, Matnes Kuhuna, Reish Sagez, and Shiluach HaKan. That all have the same theme. The Mishnah says Noig Ba'aretz u'Bechutz La'aretz, Noig Bezman Beis HaMikdash, and not in time in the Beis HaMikdash. And depending on which one it is, if it could apply to Kachim or not apply to Kachim, says the Gemara, all of them are obvious that they apply in Chutz La'aretz because they are a mitzvah. It's a mitzvah that has nothing to do with the land. It has a mitzvah to do with the object. Besides Reishis Hagez and Matnes Kuhuna, according to Rashi. Rashi sticks in Matnes Kuhuna, that according to Rebbe Elai says they only apply in Eretz Yisrael, so therefore the Mishnah had to be Mechadish that they apply also in Chutz La'aretz as well. And in all of them it's Pashat that they are noyeg when there's no Beis HaMikdash, besides Oisef es Benoi, which is close in the Torah to Kachim, and I would think that it doesn't apply, it only applies in the time of Beis HaMikdash. Yet all of them, the Mishnah has to tell us that they apply either in Chullin, only in Chullin, or also in Kachim as well, besides Gid Anasha, which I would know on my own that since it has an Isra Gid Anasha, just because it becomes Hegdish, there's no way that the Hegdish removes the Isra Gid Anasha. Now there's a few birds that there is no Shiluch HaKan, such as Kachim. If you see a bird that's owned by the Beis HaMikdash, you don't shoo it away, you just give it to the Gizbar, and a bird that kills another human being, and before the Gemara Din, you take the bird and bring it to Bezdin. Now you would think, what kind of bird will kill a human being? It so happens to be, Hashgacha Pratis today, I saw on the news, that a bird killed its owner. Have a wonderful day.